Yeah, I'm Canadian Populist Left. I'm a streamer out here on Twitch, nonfiction book streamer. As you can tell, probably the book's back here. I do a lot of political economy, foreign affairs, geopolitics, monetary operations, anti-economics, that sort of stuff. So what I do is take a book off the shelf. We watch a video from the author, and then I do a little bit of a read. So I'll read from the book for 5 minutes, and you can get a little bit of sample, and you can explore possibly a new author, mover, shaker. Everything sort of generally leans in sort of a lefty sphere space. Everything sort of even liberal leftward all the way. So yeah, that's essentially it.
Well, I'm Nate Swade. I'm part of a duo. SBTV underscore is where I stream normally, and I do a lot of ranting, raving, and sometimes explaining. and for the most part, I think I'm just like just a normal guy out here on a normal gaming platform, normal takes, normal views, and nothing that you would expect to find anywhere else outside of a regular sort of conversation that you might have grilling in your backyard. So ultimately, that's sort of what I aim to do here. And thanks so much, Touring News, for having me on here. And I'm glad to be here with CPL and soon to be here with my brother as well. So I look forward to the conversation today.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm tonight's host, Touring News. This is going to be hopefully something that we can put on about bi-monthly. We're going to be trying to do it Wednesday evenings at I think 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It seems to work pretty well for our raid schedules. I read newspapers. They read the books. They read newspapers too. I just don't read the books as much. So my kind of like focus would like to be on international news, Middle Eastern policy. They've taught me how to follow the money, follow the debts, and so forth. So we're happy to get together. We're all good friends, pretty much off screen too. When I was a good story about Nate Swade, when I was doing a fundraiser to go to Iowa to volunteer for Bernie, he showed up at my house with cold hard cash and delivered $100 right into my hands, which was pretty wonderful of you.
That's what's great about cash. No one can take any little surcharges out of it or get any little fees or whatever. It's Bezos free transaction.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, this is like so it's our first night doing this kind of format. We don't entirely have anything planned. We did have it mostly set up to be ask us anything, not that we're going to be able to answer everything. But yeah, if people have questions throughout the channel, go ahead and link them into us at any point. If you do want to subscribe to us, you can give your Twitch primes to Canadian Populous Left and SBTV underscore. If you have bits, you can give them your bits, SBTV underscore and Canadian Populous Left. And I unaffiliated my channel a little while ago, so if anybody wants to support me, you can sub to the Patreon or you can give a donation. And we also just got joined by Mencius too, so let me shift this over here. CPL, I'm gonna have to put your name over your shirt. Luckily, you're wearing a black shirt.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Yeah, just put it underneath me. Yeah, totally.
And welcome in, Mencius. How you doing? Sam.
Hello.
Hi, good to hear you.
Don't call me that.
Oh, sorry.
Call him President G.
Yeah, wonderful. So what have you all been paying attention to this week in the news, or what have like you've been kind of like focusing on? Nate, I saw you doing some of the energy streams last week. CPL, you're crushing the book. So what's been important on your attention?
Well, I'm going to start us off with, I guess, coming down in the pipeline, federal politics of Canada. We got a new report today about the federal debt coming out. It's going to reach, we're adding like $300 billion. And, a lot of the commentaries, this is gargantuan. This is so incredible. Oh, my goodness. Like, I can't believe how big it is. This is unprecedented. And we haven't seen this much debt accumulation since World War II. Like, what's going to happen? Oh, my God. And so I've been watching that, and they were pointing out it's about 48% debt to GDP ratio. Everyone seems to be sweating it a little bit right now. But, when we're looking at something like Japan, they're at over like 200%. So I'm not sweating it. So it's interesting to see that conversation go down.
Yeah, I haven't been paying so much attention to that because I think the Federal Reserve just sort of basically said what they're going to do, over the next 2 years. They're giving their forward guidance and all that, and they're basically just signaling that they're going to do whatever they have to do to keep those credit markets liquid, and they're really probably just going to wait for the government to, if the government does, to do any kind of fiscal spending at all. And I know the U.S. government's been essentially, how do I say this? Completely and entirely and utterly mismanaged for the past, I don't know, 70 years, and that doesn't show any sign of abating. So I'm assuming the minute that COVID starts to unwind, if it ever does, it'll be right back into austerity politics. Um, but yeah, in the meantime, I've been looking a lot of COVID, a lot of COVID news. Been following how these sports leagues like the NBA or MLB are going to come back online, and it looks like my guess is that they aren't.
Yeah,
It looks like
Disney's supposed to open on Saturday in Florida.
yeah. I mean, I think just a couple infections will occur. They're going to shut it all down. I see United is getting ready to lay off possibly 36,000 employees, and
Jesus.
that's the window into the air travel. I don't think we're in a recovery at all. I think we just did the classic, like the initial slope was, oh wow, like you're naive, right? And then there's that plateau for a while. We sort of have national lockdowns, and now it's up here again. So now it's, oh, you're idiots too. So that would basically describe that curve, is essentially describing America. So
You're all a little bit better read on the Great Depression than I am. I was listening to, I forget who it was on, it was either Bloomberg Finance or CNBC Money or something like that. But they were talking about how back during the Great Depression as well, something similar to what you're saying happened. There was the initial crash. There was a return where I guess it got like about 60% of the gains back. And then there was another precipitous drop off when everything actually kind of crashed out and hit the bottom. Do you know anything about when that happened? And do you think that that's kind of what we're looking into here, Nate?
well, here's the truth. Nobody really knows. There's theorists from all different ranges of all the spectrums in economics. Some people say, the government put in too much money. Some people say not ernoughh. Some people say the government pulled out stimulus too early. Some people say that the fact that the government did stimulus at all or deficit spending ruined everything. Ben Bernanke famously has a book of essays on it, and he actually studied this a lot. He got his PhD on this topic. The truth is, nobody really knows exactly why, and we can only kind of take a look at and take a snapshot of some of the data, some of the limited data that we have, and make suggestions. But the overall consensus is that it wasn't until World War II where America really started turning it all around. But yeah, the Great Depression, ultimately, if you ask me, in my opinion, it's because there's a rapid expansion of credit, massive amounts of lending going on before 1929, drive up equities. You can look at the housing markets from back then. You can look at basically any market that has to do with credit markets, and you can see that was kind of the prime generator of growth there. And eventually it collapsed. When you have a lot of people buying stocks on margin, which they still do today in a certain way. I don't know. It's just like it was a credit bubble, basically.
I'll just remind everybody again, go ahead and ask questions to us tonight, too. This is supposed to be kind of like a very informal. We're going to be learning how the new format is going to work. But yeah, go ahead and at me with the questions. I do have chat up here to read them through. It was interesting. So the person that I was watching, they were predicting another 30 to 40% drop in the equities. It was some like 85-year-old hedge fund manager person or whatever. I've been watching a lot of the... it seems like all the hedge fund managers are really kind of just saying like it's bad. I've been watching. You've been hearing me talk about Jeffrey Gundlach. I listened to Bill Ackman the other day. I was listening to Ray Dalio. He's been having some interesting takes lately. Did you hear the Ray Dalio quote of price to earnings ratio doesn't matter anymore when picking stocks?
Yeah, but a lot of people have been saying that for a long time though. Like people like. I don't know, if you go back to even the 90s or the early 2000s, people are already kind of moving away from that. And nowadays, look, I'm not even like a master of investing or anything like this, but if you're either in an index fund or an ETF or something like that, or you're out there trying to pick stocks based on like very little information. So, some people think debt structuring in a company doesn't matter, right? They go on that Modigliani Miller kind of, these Nobel Prize winning theorems, and here's the reality. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the stock market, and the stock market isn't even indicative of the economy itself. So like I would just be skeptical of all predictions one way or the other. But the actual economy is definitely in trouble, and it could actually persist for a long time. We're talking many years, not just the end of this year, maybe 2021. We're talking 5-10 years of struggling, of high structural unemployment because of certain industries either don't come back, or if they take a long time to come back, well, it's just more economic pain, more dragging your feet. in terms of how the country's going to be doing. So who knows when people actually feel safe enough to go inside of a restaurant, and when the majority of people feel safe enough to go back on planes, and when people actually want to, try to resume what was normal. This return to normal could take a decade. The stock market, though, that could go up forever. Those prices and those equities have nothing to do with reality at all.
Totally. It reminds me of I remember when there was that moment of a couple months ago when they're hitting records high in the stock market, and yet unemployment shooting through the roof, and yet they're hitting like brand new records on the stock market. And you're like, hang on, this is totally disconnected from reality. Like, what's going on here? But yeah, obviously the Fed comes in, guarantees, or does the job owning and all kinds of whatever it does. But yeah, it's who the hell knows with the stock market really at the end of the day.
I wanted to hit on something that you talked about with the airlines. So you said, was it United that was looking at laying off or firing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Air France in France, obviously. I just read a couple days ago they got a $7 billion bailout from the French government, and they're still looking at laying off up to 7,500 workers. And I've seen multiple different airlines saying we have too many flight cabin attendants, we have too many staff, and so forth. There was just a cancellation of 27 Boeing 737 MAX jets as well, as they're still not able to get anything up off the ground. And we know Boeing is going to get bailed out as they're considered critical to national security. Well, I guess that'd be considered critical to national security. Who was the airline company that at first they said we're not going to have people fly in the middle seat, but now they took that restriction away? And I was
yeah, I did see that. I'm thinking this is crazy. First off, if you're getting on a plane now, I mean, it's absolutely out of necessity, or you need to get it together, right? Like, no one knows. Okay, I'm sure you saw this report that of course the World Health Organization is not confirming, but more and more scientists are basically saying that it's indeed an airborne virus. Why would you ever get on an aluminum tube that travels 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet up in the air with recirculated air with 50 or 60 or 100 or 200 other people when that shit is airborne?
True.
You gotta be absolutely it's crazy.
Yeah, I think it was 239 scientists from multiple different countries just wrote a letter to the now pulled out WHO. If you live in the United States, we're going to be out of the WHO by sometime in 2021. I think, is that accurate?
I think so. I know they're making the moves to officially pull out now, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it became official within the past 48 hours that we're going to be trying to pull out by 2021.
Well, see, the craziest thing about coronavirus is that we're almost completely in the dark. No one knows the long-term effects of this. We don't know if that virus, once you have it, if it stays dormant in you, it could stay dormant for years.
Totally.
Like tuberculosis, right? It kills a lot of people, but if you contract it, okay, depending on what kind you get, if it's multiple drug resistant or just your standard issue, that can stay dormant in you for 20 years before it ever has an effect. Who knows? What coronavirus is? It's novel. It's new. We have no idea the long-term effects. I see people, they're reporting they have depression. They don't recover like their baseline like mental well-being after they get it. All kinds of amputations. Who's that guy that who's like an actor or a like Broadway star or something like that?
Yeah, I was in Canada. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's like nobody. We have no idea how this affects children in the long term, young adults, old people. I mean, right now, what we do know is that there's a very large racial disparity of it's mostly black people or Latino people who are getting killed by it, right, at a much higher clip than other groups of people, and that's largely probably because they're frontline workers who can't afford to shelter in place or stay out of the workforce. So it already has an economic bent. It's already damaging certain parts of the population more than others, which reflects the already existing inequalities in society. And we're only in how many months is this? 7 months in or 5 months in? This could be years. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm pretty doomer on the corona, to be honest.
No, I think those are all really, really good points. Go ahead, CPL.
I was just going to add in, it looks like the attitude, at least from the federal American administration is, or the executive branch, Mr. Trump, seems to be, we're just going to, ignore it's there and hope people just pretend we're just going to play a game of good old pretend. And that's essentially the policy. So
someone just asked a good question here. Why is Medicare for All not getting a lot of traction, it seems? You would think this is the best environment for it. And I want to say something before, each of you can kind of go off on this tangent. So there's a big push right now to give the COVID-19 treatment and/or vaccine for free. Even both some people in both political parties are at least kind of like trying to push forward for this. To me, it doesn't calculate how they can say, all right, we should get this COVID-19 vaccine for free, but if you get cancer because of nothing that you've done, you should have to pay for all of your cancer treatment. Like, how are they able to kind of...
That's a great point. That's a great point. Well, I think, the best I can come up with is like, I'm obviously on board with single payer healthcare all around the board. I'm from Canada. We have it. So yeah, but the thing with the COVID-19, like everyone has to get it because we spread it to one. Like if you get a tumor, you're not going to like spread it to someone. So I'm still on board with getting people cleaned up on the tumor. Like let's help you out, get that done. Don't even ever worry about it. But with COVID, everyone's got to get it. Or the vaccine. Not COVID. Everyone's got to get the vaccine.
Well,
so,
if you live in the United States, everybody's got to get it right now.
If you live in the United
States, you're correct.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, that's true. Oh, damn it. But we have to get everyone the option to get in on that. So yeah, hopefully we don't do some ridiculous IP price gouge. That'd be a nightmare. That'd be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, this is actually a very complicated question, and obviously the fact that Medicare for All is not a prevalent demand just shows you how far down the hole we are, like the American psyche, I should say. Like there are people obviously who are paying attention. There's always people who see what's going on, but the overwhelming majority of this country, whether they're a little bit left or a little bit right or in the middle or whatever, it's basically how do I get mine? All right, that's it. They don't give a. This country was founded on how do I get mine, and who do I have to kill, to rob or whatever to do it. And it's been this way for 200 and some years, ever since 1776. We just had 4th of July, and it's probably going to be this way for the foreseeable future. Every now and then, people come along, try to change it. Every now and then, you get some social movements out there that actually put pressure, start doing things. But there's something in the American psyche. All those crazy religious people that came over from Europe in the 1600s and 1700s, all these crazy fucking people that couldn't cut it over there, or they were poor or whatever, they came here trying to get theirs. All right? And that has not left. So we don't have this kind of like collectivist mentality in America. We don't have this kind of like, go to a place like China, or go to a place like, Christ, even England, go to the United Kingdom. There's some level of like this, in it to get. And I'm not saying that they haven't been devastated by their own Thatcherite bullshit, all right? But go to like Japan, go to, just pick a country somewhere, and there's some level of like collective care or concern, all right? I think Japan's a great comparison because post-war they essentially had to rebuild. Just look at all their infrastructure. Look at all the hospitals they have. Look at the healthcare. Look at all the amenities and services and high tech and all. And then look at America. Like just go on Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever. Look at the coastlines and the cities and towns of Japan. Now look at the coasts and cities of America, and you will see rot in America. It's just rotting. We haven't done any kind of investments at all into this country. Not just the people, but the physical places. So this is a playground for rich people to get rich in. And the rest of us are here to, I don't know, be the suckers. It's what was that? P.T. Barnum, the guy with the circus. It's like get people towards the egress. Get people to, you get them to give them their nickel or whatever, and then get them to the exit. That's what this country is. So that's a real reason you don't have Medicare for all. People can break it down and say, but Nate, there are these arguments for, maybe it's like and I'm not saying they're not wrong, right? Like, people just don't know. Maybe it's an education problem. Maybe it's an understanding. Maybe people need to work out the financing of it. Yeah, okay, that's all like, hypothetically true. But we should also resist the idea that, oh well, if everyone was just exposed to the facts, the facts that Medicare for all would just, we just gotta convince everybody, show them the math. No, that's not how it works. It's not how political convincing works. There's no facts-driven politics, not even on the left. Nowhere. You're making an appeal to morality, and the morality in America is if you're sick. If you're poor, it's your fault. Ultimately, like you said, it's your fault you got the cancer. It's your fault you got coronavirus. That's how people think in this country. And not all of them, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like the overwhelming majority of people, because how else do you explain it? How else do you explain the fact that we don't have Medicare for all? You can say, well, all the politicians are bought out. Okay, the firms are really powerful that are arguing for private healthcare all the time. Okay, yeah, these are profit centers. but the overwhelming majority of American people tend to like the idea of having a universal coverage kind of system, right? But why hasn't it happened?
Speaking about the bought out part, did either of you see the 60 Minutes expose on fentanyl, where they were bribing all of the different doctors to, prescribe the lollipops and everything? They were giving them alcohol. They were taking them to strip clubs. They were cutting them checks for like 10.
No.
Oh yeah, it's like a really in-depth, like, good reporting. It's about like a 28-minute video. To give a little bit of background on what I'm talking about, there was also a Reuters special in-depth investigation that when I called into the Majority Report, it was actually the article that I was citing. The United States has a problem of when there's a product liability lawsuit, our court system is in favor of corporations often sealing the court documents to keep any of the damage away from the populace. And they hide behind, well, we can't allow our intellectual property to be shown. We can't allow the trade secrets to be shown. So they cited the Remington 700 rifle being silenced for, 70 years that they didn't tell people it had a faulty trigger. There were OxyContin cases for, the damaging effects of it dating back from like 2001 to 2004. But what happened when the court cases got settled? They sealed all the documents and they didn't let the public know about them. So this, even our judicial system and even our court system in the United States is designed to hide any of the damages that corporations do. And I was just ranting about it the other day. There are actuarials and bean counters in all of these different corporations that are saying, okay, well, if we break the law for 7 years, we're going to make this X amount of billions of dollars. The fine is probably going to be this X amount of hundreds of millions of dollars. So, all right, let's fucking go. Let's just break the law. So, I didn't know if you had seen anything about this at all, or, kind of what you think about that.
No, I hadn't. But I was just going to add about, healthcare system in terms of like America not being able to get a healthcare system, universal healthcare program. And just look overseas over the British, right? World War II, incredible debt levels, bombed to hell by Germany. We're after World War II, and somehow they were able to get a national health service up and running, and it's like a treasure today, right? I mean, there's no reason to say why America couldn't do this. I mean, you're not bombed. You're good to go. You can afford it. It's all doable. You have the knowledge. You already have functioning. Well, people just can't get into the access to the healthcare system. But I mean, the doctors are trained. The education is there. It's not like you don't have doctors who didn't go to school, nurses who didn't go to school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all there. It's ready to go. And it's so sad in the sense that the helplessness of we can't do anything in America. And I'm saying, yeah, you can if you want to,
I have an
really
anecdotal story of I had a really bad panic attack. Maybe it's about like 2 weeks ago now. My heart was just like pumping out of my chest. I thought that I was having a heart attack. I sent a text message to my roommate with all my passwords in case it was really the big one. That way he'd have been able to walk into the stream. I'm fine now. It's just a little bit of high blood pressure. But the reason that I'm bringing up the story is when I went to the hospital, they don't even have a separate entrance for patients that they think have COVID-19 and for patients that are just going into the ER. You go into this, they take you into a room. The room was about, the entrance was maybe, 15 feet by 20 feet wide. And there were two people there that, inspected my bags and stuff. There's a big thing of air, blowing down on you. And they're wheeling everybody in through this, and then they're checking them right there. And I'm just like, take a truck and drive it through a wall and build, a new entrance or something. But, we don't even do the simple, basic things that you think would be a smart, wise idea to do. I don't know.
It costs money. It's going to cut into the profits. They don't have the resources to do safety. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. Why isn't there a social healthcare system or any kind of social safety net? An actual, real, comprehensive, get it together kind of social safety net. And what you were describing with this intellectual property and the courts hiding this, and you see how the hospital works, every single industry in America is like this. Every single one. I've been in manufacturing for years, okay? The shit that they cover up, the shit they don't report, the shit they hide from auditors, they hire private auditors, all right? You think the government's going around inspecting factories? And this is defense contracts. I was making shit for airplanes. You think they just... oh yeah, government, come on here, make sure stuff's good. No, they hire someone, some other firm whose job it is to get calls from companies to come and look at their stuff. Any conflicts of interest there? Doesn't matter. okay, because they have the guaranteed government contract. So, like the banks, this is another one, right? Their business model is some kind of fraud at the end of the day. You can look at who was it, HSBC. They were doing no, was it HSBC or UBS? Somebody, okay, big bank. They were down in Mexico. They had special windows designed for cash boxes to be fit through, so that drug dealers could launder their cash drug money.
HSBC, yeah, that was the one.
Yeah. Okay. They knew what they were doing. They got caught. They acted like they didn't know what they were doing. They paid a fine. Now, who knows how much they made over the whole course of time in terms of like kickbacks or whatever from actually running this drug money through. Now, if I did that, if I laundered $200 for a drug dealer, I'm getting like some kind of maximum sentence. I'm ruining the community because I'm helping facilitate the transport and sale of drugs, right? Like, but if you're a banker, okay, or if you're one of the C-suites on these big financial corporations, that's just the cost of business. Oh, you get caught, $800 million fine. Well, you made $3 billion, so you won. That's it, and the fines don't matter. The fines don't matter to these people. So it's all regulatory capture. It's all talk about capitalism and politics and all this shit. The people who hate capitalism the most aren't even the socialists. It's the actual capitalists. They don't want competition. They want to protect their IP. They want to own the core system. They want to own the government. They hate capitalism. Jeff Bezos hates competitors. They want it all. They want the entire market share. This is the game. But you turn on like Bloomberg or NBC or you turn on any of these mainstream media outlets. They act like there's some kind of like there's a stock market out there. They don't ever talk about the stock market for real or what it really is or how it works. No one ever explains anything or how it works. You just get the constant entertainment drumbeat. So that's why we don't have healthcare. No one. You ask anybody, like Torian, you brought up your story. I've been putting off going to the doctors precisely because I assume that if I go down there, I'm going to get COVID.
Yeah. Knock on something. So far today, I'm 10 days symptom free, and my roommate is also 10 days symptom free. So this is like pointing in the right direction. And I'm sorry that you're having to put off going. I did. So speaking of, to stay on healthcare for a little bit longer, then there's a couple good questions that I wanted to get to. I was watching Mike Pence today give a speech, and we're short on PPE again in the United States. And Pence put out a suggestion that they follow the recommendations on how to reuse PPE in the different hospitals and medical facilities, which I just couldn't believe. So the kind of question that I wanted to ask is, why didn't we use the Defense Production Act earlier and more effectively even now to create more of the PPE that we need for our medical staff in our facilities? Like, we actually have the ability to try to mandate private companies to produce more gowns, more face masks, more N95s and so forth. And I tried to look through the materials that were needed to make N95s. It's not exactly like we don't have them. It's not like a supply chain issue that we can't get materials from China. So, two reasons. Okay.
There's two reasons. Okay. There's two sets of idiots. One is you have the Donald Trump type idiot, the idiots in the government who are here now because of the idiot Donald Trump, right? Those kinds of idiots that circulate around it there. Two, though, and the bigger, longer term reason is because the idiots that fell for the free trade meme. All right. Now, free trade is great when it's working. It's great when there's no global pandemics or wars that shut down your trade because, in normal times, you just buy some masks from China. Oh, man, who could have seen a strategic resource might be needed to be produced here? What kind of genius would we have required to just say, like, maybe we should hold some industries in America and just make sure we can always produce our medicine and our masks and PPE here? Oh, who would have thought? And now it's like, well, now look what happens when the global supply chain breaks down. Oops. It's called idiot economics. That's what this country's also run on, by the way. Idiot economists who fell for idiot bullshit because they were taught that in school, never questioned anything. I see people on like Twitch sometimes talk about Marx or like political theory. Economists don't read any of that. They don't even read their own shit. They don't even read David Ricardo. They don't read Adam Smith. You think anyone reads Adam Smith when you go to economics? No. You learn about supply and demand. You learn about little abstractions and models. And that's the 101 undergrad shit. They don't ever you don't actually get into it or any of the counterfactuals or anything. No. You go into grad school, you do some you specialize in some other bullshit. That's what they teach you. So when you make policy based on dumb shit, it just so happens that when an actual crisis, what if it was a war? What if this was actually like a bioweapon? What if this was actually like from Russia, from China, the liberals always afraid of Russia. What if this was a Chinese bioweapon? What would we do? Oh, shit. Basically, you got a bunch of fucking idiots who have no foresight and don't realize that you needed some level of government planning. You need some level of government intervention basically all the time. And actually, that's all there's ever been. It's just that our government interventions are only on the behalf of rich people. That's it. This is what the Federal Reserve, ultimately, what their policies are going to do. The monetarist policies are just going to increase inequality. That's all they're going to do. This monetarist policy does not help normal people. It only increases the assets and values of all. In fact, poor people are getting hit by inflation right now. If you look at people in the top 10% of America, they are experiencing 1% CPI inflation. When you look at the core basket of goods that the Federal Reserve separates, particularly for coronavirus. Okay, it's basically it's a modified consumer basket. Okay, if you look at the bottom 10%, the inflation they're facing is 1.5%, and those are the poorest people in America. So they're paying more for food in the stores, right? They're paying more to survive day-to-day basis. Monetarist policy is not going to do anything about that in the immediate term. So what do you need? You need the government to spend, but the government's, and I can't even say all the negative words I need to say to describe what the government is.
Sure, yeah.
But there you go. So do you want an argument against free trade? Maybe need some protections. Let's start with medical supplies. China, 90% of the precursors, okay, the ingredients you need to make all prescription drugs, 90% come from China. Is that smart? Apparently China's the big enemy. They're imprisoning the Uyghurs. They're authoritarian. They're horrible people. But yeah, fuck it. Let's just import their stuff. So you have all this. I call it schizophrenia. I don't say it in the negative. I'm not trying to stigmatize. I'm saying you
clinical.
have two clinical. At the same time that people in America are complaining that the Chinese are manipulating their currency and devaluing their currency, they also want a policy of increasing the power of the American. We want more. We want the American power, the dollar, to rise so we can import more. It doesn't make any sense. America is a land of idiots that either is intended to or just so happens to benefit the people who know how the game is played, who have the connections, who are either in Washington, D.C., New York City, or Los Angeles. That's what this country is for. That's why you don't have healthcare, because like you said before, nobody cares about me or you or anyone else. They don't care about the frontline workers. They don't care about healthcare. They don't care about the environment. They don't care. They can get on a plane and go.
Do you have anything to
add? Not too much right now.
It was so good.
Yeah, I'm just ranting and raving. So you can just shut me down at any time.
This is why I go over and watch your stream. It's great.
Yeah, just ranting and raving.
No, it was. I mean, it was a good one, and I think we covered a lot of it. Remind me at some point. I want to bring up. There's a question in chat, and it's about to scroll up too far, so I'm going to go to that one. But I want to talk CPL about the Canadians selling light armored vehicles to Saudi Arabia, not getting paid for them, still selling them more vehicles. Because, well, just today, the United Kingdom said that they're going to continue exporting more weapons to Saudi Arabia, and their trade minister said there's no direct evidence of the weapons from Saudi Arabia being imported into Yemen and being used in the Yemeni conflict. Within 3 minutes, I found the CNN special in-depth investigation where they had people go undercover with cameras that showed the American LAVs rolling off of a container ship in the port of Yemen.
There you go.
And I tweeted it out, and I'm just like, it took me 3 minutes to disprove everything that you were saying. So I want to come back to that one at some point.
Absolutely.
The question that came in that I think is a good one to go to is, with the growing calls for degrowth to tackle the climate crisis, do we see the current crisis as a possible chance to redefine the economy as more ecologically determined? I'll take the first stab and say, I mean, yes, it's a chance. Do I think that they're going to utilize the chance? I'm not really seeing, many people stepping up and doing it. Now, there's some decent evidence in the United Kingdom. They just earmarked £3 billion to give. They're going to be giving low-income housing people a £10,000 grant to replace the windows to be double-paned windows to try to improve energy efficiency. They're going to be giving other homes around a £5,000 grant in order to do that. But at least here in the United States, I mean, I don't even think that the Democratic Party entirely backs the Green New Deal, let alone the Conservative Party that has control of most of the purse at the moment via the Senate and the presidency at the moment. So I like the question. I think it'd be really wonderful if we actually utilize the opportunity to go to a more circular economy, to try to develop, something that would be closer to sustainable. I'm not even going to say it's perfectly sustainable, but yeah, what do you? We'll start with CPL. You didn't really get the mic on the medical one, so yeah, what do you think about this?
Well, in terms of the whole concept of how we understand growth right now, our concept of growth, cannot continue to function. Now the whole question is, and I still trying to wrap my head around it. What alternatives are there? Obviously, someone mentioned degrowth. Is something a solid state economy something that we might end up going toward, or are we going to be doing some sort of like mission oriented growth where you go somewhere and it's done? So these are things I still ponder and not 100% sure, but like what we're doing now of compound growth, infinite, is just not going to go over. It's just not. It's just we're consuming too many planets. Like what is it? 1.8, 1.8, 1.7, something like this. It's way too much. So we definitely have to reevaluate that, and that's a really tricky question, though. But I think it's very, very clear that we can't ecologically sustain that. And your economy sits on the ecology, something that a lot of economists don't even think about. You have no ecology, you bye-bye economy, any resemblance of it, because we're all dead. So we can't even live. Our habitat can't support us. So anyway, that's all I can kind of say to that. But I really wish I could come out here and say like 100%, like this is the way to go. But I'm learning as I go.
I forgot to give the disclaimer, but I did tell my chat earlier, don't ask questions that you think might get bad answers, because we're probably going to give like the dark answer if you ask them. So I kind of like warned people, if you ask certain things, we're not going to sit up here and not, give what we think. And this might be one of them, but yeah, go ahead, Nate.
Well, so absolutely, this is absolutely an opportunity. It's always an opportunity. And even if, okay, let's pretend that because of how we handled climate change over the past, like, I don't know, say 30 or 40 years, there's like 2 degrees Celsius baked in. Okay, that's how we can't stop it. It's still worth it to try to not go to 3 or 4 or 5. It's still worth it to try to head off as much as possible. Okay, like from a pragmatic standpoint, any amount of reduction is better than nothing. But even if it might actually be too late, depending on what estimates you look at, but you can look at even the economic impacts that are estimated by the IPCC are just totally like fantasy land, like totally like sugar coated, crazy assumptions in them. Don't you can trust the science in the IPCC. Don't trust the economic analysis. All right. Here's what I'm getting at. Like, you can totally you basically, we can't, like CPL said.
Whoa,
we can't
hold on
sustain
just
what we're
a
doing
moment,
right now.
Mr. Nate. We just got raided by the serfs with a party of 271 people. Well, hi everybody. Damn, thank you for bringing some people over, Lance. This is very wonderful of you. I really appreciate it. I'm currently your host, Touring News tonight. We're going to be doing this panel every other Wednesday. It's probably going to be called the International Political Economy Panel. It is opened up to an AMA, so if people have questions, go ahead and @ me for the questions. We are joined by above me, Canadian Populace Left. Shout out shout out Canadian Populace Left. And off to this side, we have the brothers of SBTV_. So yeah, thank you everybody for coming over here. We really appreciate it. We're currently talking about is the current climate of the COVID-19 crisis and economy going to lead to us actually trying to reach for more sustainable energy generation, more sustainable economics, more circular economy? And I had to cut off SBTV_ there. However, I would like to give it back to you. Thank you so much for bringing the raid over. The Serfs talks about really anything. World news, Canadian news, United States news. You've been having a lot of big name guests onto the channel. I really appreciate you bringing all of these people over tonight. Very, very wonderful of you. And I did stay in your stream a long time to look at that rock article. There was actually a decent article from The Guardian, how they're trying to take basalt dust and spread it over different agricultural fields as a way to potentially sequester carbon and turn it into a carbonate. And I sent the link to Professor Melko, the one that you were talking about, the serfs. And Professor Melko seemed to be pretty decently on board with it, that it was somewhat of a decent way to sequester a little bit of carbon. So yeah, it was not bath salt dust, it was basalt dust. But yeah, as you were.
All right, yeah. So I was just going to say, well, thanks everyone for coming, and I hope everyone's having a good time, or as good as you can have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, okay, so it's pretty clear that the way we're using the resources on this planet, not only is it not ethical, not only is it dangerous, but it's unsustainable, like pretty much in every way you do it. The problem is, yes, when people said, can you do something? Yes, you can. There's lots of things you can do. There's lots of behaviors you have to change. There's tons of opportunities for investments to drive things in another direction globally. Okay, that's all possible. The problem is the political message. What country can you run a political message in and say, yeah, I want to shrink the economy by 3% over the next 5 years? Yeah, I want to actually decrease the amount of production or whatever in here. And there's where you kind of run into your first problem. Everybody in the world is running on a jobs platform or running on some kind of more development. You go to China, you go to Vietnam, you go to any country basically in the world. They're going to be saying, we want this growth, we want to increase this amount of investments into that. That's what they're on. So you have to you're sailing into those headwinds, and you're also running out of time simultaneously. So you have a whole bunch of crazy negative feedback loops that can occur, where you'll have more political, the more climate change worsens outcomes, the more political instability you have, the more crazy politics you have, and then you get this this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So that's where sometimes, if you look down some projections, you get into this eco-fascist world of everyone's just fighting for resources. The more rosy, optimistic projections are well, there's a big concerted effort from all the international community, and we're all going to get together and do something about climate change. The reality is, though, there's no winning right now the way things are currently structured. People say, yeah, but the emissions are down in America by 0.3%. No, they're shifted. They're doing production in China, or they're doing production in Vietnam or Bangladesh. Those countries are seeing increases in their CO2 because as factories from Europe or America get outsourced there, that's where the pollution is done. So we still have our electronic products and all of our things and our crazy. We're still throwing away 130 billion pounds of food in America every year. That's 30 or 40% of the food that gets grown here is thrown out into the garbage. Amazon and other wholesalers, they burn clothes that they can't sell to keep their prices at a certain level, and to save space in their warehouses. You can go look up that stuff too. So we're just throwing away resources. The question is, why are you even making them? And that's because you live in a certain kind of economic system that's making that. You're living in a kind of capitalism. All right, you're living in basically a scam for people to try to make money, aka get power, and then go and do what they want with it. That's all that's really happening. So, can you do something about the environment? Yes, but what's it going to require? It's going to require how we use 50% of the surface of the Earth. Mm-hmm. The biggest problem with climate change is the agricultural problem. All right, it's literally you have to. I showed people on the stream last night. The overwhelming majority of land in America, all the agricultural land, is used to produce cattle. And a lot of that corn you see when you drive through Iowa or Ohio or wherever, that's feed corn. So we use a massive amount of land, and this is globally true. You can look at Brazil. What are they cutting the rainforest down for?
One-fifth of the Amazon cut down in the past 50 years.
It's to produce beef. That's it. And that's eating meat is probably one of the worst things you could do for the climate. So if you want to kill it faster, eat more. And it's just really not good news. It's going to require an absolute turnaround. We pulled a handbrake while we're driving. That's the only chance you even have. This whole idea of a carbon tax, where there's going to be a $40 carbon tax. By 2030 you'll have a $40 tax on 1 ton of CO2. That's baby shit.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Maybe $40 in 1965. Now you need it to be triple digits, very high up. It would be really expensive.
I have a ton that needs to be said. So many people follow my channel. Thank you for doing that. But please make sure, if you like, I'm lucky that I'm the one hosting it tonight, but please follow Canadian Populous Left and SPTV_. If anybody has Twitch Primes, you can give them on their channels. I unaffiliated my account a while ago due to some contentions that I have with Jeff Bezos, revenue sharing, and these type of things. So if you've got Twitch Primes and you're looking to use them somewhere, you could put it at SPTV_, or you could put it at Canadian Populous Left. Xi Jinping, I want to throw it to you in just a moment to talk about the energy lost in the heat transfer of some of the different technologies that we're talking about. First, before we go into that, Nate, you mentioned the feedback loops, and I actually found a decent way with the green screen to show one of the feedback loops. So if everybody looks at my camera here, all right, well, this is supposed to be black. But if you've heard of the albedo effect, what the albedo effect is when sunlight would hit something that's bright, more of it bounces back off. So as the glaciers melt, the glacier is going to recede, which is going to be leaving more dark earth underneath it. When the dark earth is left underneath, this is going to be trapping in more heat, which is one of the feedback loops that Nate was kind of talking about. So I think that this is, just looking at this kind of image here would be you see how much more of it is reflecting off of there, not reflecting off of here? That's kind of just one way to look at the feedback loop there.
The classic I think about is when I go outside in a black shirt versus a white shirt. when it's really sunny, and or like a black hoodie, and I'm like, that was a mistake. Why did I put on a black hoodie? This is a mistake. So you can really feel it. But yeah, another feedback loop too is like methane getting released in the atmosphere as well. You know, with the glaciers melting, etc. Yeah, it can cause really nasty feedback loops.
Now, there was somebody, Lilith, in the channel. I saw you type in some great stuff. Yes, if we do move towards better renewable energies, that can be used to do vertical farming, and you can do a lot of integrations and get it a lot better. There was actually an article that I read somewhere where somehow they were taking seawater along with corrugated cardboard and some changes in temperature to run the seawater somehow through that was going to like separate and catch the salt on the corrugated cardboard and then produce like actual water that could be used in like desert regions in order to do like better farming techniques. So if anybody out there wants to look for it, I don't entirely remember the scientific positions behind it, but it actually seemed to be pretty decent from where I read it. It's really escaping me at the moment to go further about it, but I gave you at least like a brief, introduction into how it would be. But to throw it over to Xi Jinping, I was watching the best stream that I've ever seen on your channel. It was 1 week ago, exactly a week ago, when you were talking about the energy that's lost via like the heat transmission and everything. Could you elaborate on that a little bit if you wouldn't mind?
What about it? You know.
Just explain it a little bit for anybody that might be tuning in.
Oh boy, you're really putting me on the spot here. Yeah, I mean, you lose heat. It's thermodynamics.
To go a little bit more of the way that it was described to me from when I was listening to their channel, which you should have saved that VOD. It was really the greatest stream that I've ever seen. So you were talking about how like one of the problems with nuclear energy at the moment is you're taking an archaic steam-powered engine, which has been around since the dawn of our modern recorded time. No, I mean obviously that's a little exaggeration.
I said all this.
Yeah, you were talking about how you're heating, you're making a reaction with uranium to cause steam to turn a turbine to create energy, but you're losing so much energy in shifting like the different heat. And then you brought up the data point of I think about 67% of the energy that we actually create gets lost in the heat part of the transaction, and only 32% actually gets put out. 32.7% gets put out as usable energy, and that number is actually down from its like previous high of being more efficient. Yeah, you did. This is why you got to save those VODs. Wow. It was so good.
I did all that. That's crazy.
Do you remember this, Nate, at all?
Yeah, basically, what the main thrust of that stream was like when most people talk about energy, especially we're talking about renewables or how to address this challenge. Okay, globally speaking, they're always talking in terms of like the money it takes, right? Like when they talk about nuclear power versus wind or solar or hydro or something like that, or geothermal. Okay, they're always saying, well, nuclear power plants take about 20 years to become profitable because they have to borrow and they have a lot of upfront costs and they take a lot to maintain. But over like 20 years, then they become profitable. Versus like a liquid natural gas plant that only takes 1 year or 2 years to be profitable, and we can just burn this like cheap and ubiquitous natural gas and blah blah blah. But those are like the economic calculations of like the profit of burning this fuel and then generating electricity from that. They don't actually talk about the much larger problem of energy creation in human society, which is one of kind of it's the thermodynamic problem, which is what Ziercore was saying here. Okay, the thermodynamic problem is that ultimately you can't really win, right? So if you calculated all the resources that it took to build a particular kind of so for example, you take a solar cell, even if it has very good efficiency, right, which is fine, what does it take to maintain those? What does it take to refine all the minerals, where those come from, how they get around the world? How do you got to keep them going, right? Then you have to get rid of them. Do they have toxic chemicals? How much energy? What's the total energy return on investment? Okay, for every single power source. So you look like oil, right? It's the EROI is like it's like 25 to 1. Okay, like Saudi oil, like Canadian tar sands, is like 5 to 1 there on investment. There are different levels of even oil is not all equal. It depends on how hard it is to get it, how much water you're using, et cetera, et cetera. So the renewables have to basically, if you want to actually them to be renewable, you have to have like a positive net energy, like remainder at the end of it. Okay, that's pretty much it. Like, ultimately, like, if you are
We might not want to go
burning-
too much further from here because people are going to panic. But I think that's like a decent. We don't want to scare everybody.
Well, I'm saying, like, so if it cost you 6 barrels of oil to produce a solar panel, but over the lifetime of that solar panel, you only produced 5 barrels of oil worth of energy, you didn't win. You see what I'm saying? You did not win. You need to. So what you need is, like, you take 5 barrels of oil to produce the solar, and it produces 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. Okay, and so, like, the next best thing is, if you can't have very efficient energy creation, then you need to start using less, or you actually have to start designing things better. You have to think about how you design cities. You have to think about how you design houses. You have to think about what you're going to produce. You have to think about, like, cradle to cradle recycling. Like, you have to think about, like, how will this waste product be used in a new product? How can we save energy throughout the entire system, not just at the point of energy creation, not just at the dynamo, okay, not just at where, you know, the magnets spinning around in the coils, okay. You have to think about the entire system, you know. So basically, even with all renewables that we see right now, it's still not like a net positive. We're still not necessarily beating the fossil fuel
Look, even if you use, like, right now you're using you're putting CO2 particulates or something like that in the atmosphere, and those things also capture heat as well. But like you're saying with the nuclear power plant, that's a lot of steam heat going into the atmosphere, right? Which theoretically there's no CO2 in there, so you think you're free, but like you're saying, you're losing. The best nuclear power plants we have, they're about 35% efficient. That means you're getting about 35% useful work out of it. 65% of that heat goes out of those smokestacks into the atmosphere. Okay, so then that heat gets picked back up by the CO2 that you're doing. And then if you think about a nuclear power plant, right, you have to do this process. Number one, I forget what it's called, to superheat the uranium, which uranium is just condensed star matter. So you're just playing around with solar energy in different ways, no matter how you look at it. You're superheating uranium to, like, some sort of ceramic type substance, and then you put that into and superheat. Then you use that as the radioactive. It's the element. Yeah.
You're talking about making the pellets.
Yeah,
the
the
uranium
pellets. Yeah, the uranium pellets. You got to refine them, because refined uranium doesn't occur naturally in the wild. You know what I mean? There's only, like, so much uranium you can actually use. It's like 1% of it. So you have to process it. That takes extreme heat. And then to deal with the waste, it's a process called calcination. You have to extreme heat it again. You turn it into glass, basically. So those processes right there, you're still using CO2, right? So if we can ignore those things and just look at the power plant itself, okay, maybe you're getting energy free out of there. All right, so now let's look at a solar voltaic field, okay? You're getting 8% efficiency out of those right now. So 92% of the heat created is lost into the atmosphere. So that's why you see them constantly trying to do, like, desalination plants or something like that right next to the solar plant, because you can use a process called cogeneration, and you can capture that waste heat, but it's only efficient if you do it very close to the plant. And then you can use it for other things. But if you try and distribute that waste heat, like through a pipe or a tube long distances, then you ruin the efficiency of the actual energy being created for useful work. And then you're just messing up the whole timing of the thing. So, like, the best power plants we have are, like, diesel electric plants that run at, like, 54% efficiency.
Someone is saying
And then you
photovoltaic
get into,
may
like,
have gone up to 20%. You're all in areas that I'm not entirely sure.
There's perovskite cells and things like that I'm aware of, but I'm saying that's just been invented. So just because you got a new solar cell today doesn't mean all your solar fields you're using right now are that efficient, or that you're mass manufacturing that technology. If you look at the NBER lab, it's the National Bureau of Energy Research
I think,
Laboratory, or National Renewable Energy Laboratory from the U.S. Department of Energy. They have a lot of good data on this, but
One thing that I learned from Lance from the Surfs TV today, and I'm still trying to check and see if this is what it was. Lance said that for every Google search performed, it takes the energy equivalent of boiling 1 pot of water. And I tried to look it up a little bit. It actually seemed that it was for every 2 Google searches. It takes the amount of energy to boil. Yo, that freaked me the fuck out. That, like, sorry to give this to all of you in chat, but That freaked me the fuck out. If that's like true, if anybody can like fact check, I was trying to like fact check it in between my streams a little bit, and it seemed like there were like some actual legitimate sources going. No, it's not correct, says Central Committee. Okay, yeah, if that's, yeah, please prove me wrong here. Yeah, please, by all means, 100%, please prove me wrong on this. This was what I heard Lance say, and I was trying to do a little bit of looking into it. Please, I would very much love to be wrong about this. So actually pretend what I said was fake news until more people do research. What I wanted to end the energy thing on is, Nate, could you in a minute blow out why fracking is bad from an economical sense with the the way that they said, all right, well, we're going to get oil at $75 a barrel, so this is going to be how we're going to get the loans and so. Can you just in a quick minute say, fracking doesn't work even economically, let alone energy wise?
Well, yeah, and my brother can help me out with this too. But in essence, you're looking at fracking oil and you're looking at fracking natural gas. The natural gas still is pretty dominant out there. Okay, it still happens, but the fracking for oil is absolutely not profitable. Those industries have been they've been cash flow negative for almost a decade, and the only reason they ever were operating in the first place is because they had access to extraordinarily cheap credit. And so, now in an emergency, when the price of oil falls below $45-50 a barrel, they're completely unprofitable. So they're just basically folding up. That might be it for the shale, the oil shale plays for now. Who knows in 20 years or less, if oil goes back up to $100 a barrel, it'll be a different conversation. But ultimately, all it ended up being was an immense waste of time, energy, resources, money, water, land. Then this is to say nothing of all the communities that have been affected by fracking. Now, particularly if you look at like in the East Coast, you look at like the Utica Shale, the Marcellus Shale. You have a whole lot. You're gonna have generations worth of pollution just sitting there. Which have these externalities even been factored in? Probably not, because after they're done fracking a well, they just pump all the waste back down into it, and you just hope that it doesn't seep back out, which of course it does. So and then there's also leaks. So if you look at like methane gas coming out of gas fracking operations, they don't even really know the full extent of gas leakage. So it's been estimated to be probably worse than just burning oil.
Look,
That's
essentially, because you think about from the energy perspective, right? Shale is a very, especially when you go up to like the Canadian tar sand stuff, it has this stuff called dilbit in there, I believe, it has bitumens. It's like bituminous, and then
bitumen or something like that. Bitumen?
Yeah, bitumen, and then you have to take that out with this thing called dilbit, which is essentially a type of gasoline. You essentially use gasoline to make this stuff liquid enough so you can actually send it through a pipeline. Then you have to have these other plants that have to actually work this stuff through more liquids, usually water, something like that, to then filter out the actual usable shale the petroleum substance out of there, the crude oil substance, right? And usually this only exists mostly because of a negative interest rate environment, things like this. There was the political narratives, right? The narrative, energy independence, right? For so long, everything's a free market, except all of a sudden energy comes along. And Tori, I sent you a little PDF in the chat.
Okay.
This is going to just explain it much better than I can. I mean, I'll do a little bit of the explaining, but it's just like,
do we have anything that we don't want the screen to see if I exit full screen to show?
The first paragraph's pretty good. I mean, it kind of sums it up.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine. It's just this can explain if you want to link it to people in chat and stuff, they can read about it. Shale never made money. It was never profitable. It was never any good. It existed because, for a lot of the reasons, a lot of the things exist now in our economy. It's not an energy decision that this is being made for. It's not efficiency decisions. It's political narratives. It's wealthy people.
To move on to Rosier Scott. Okay, one person is saying one Google search is equal to turning on a 60-watt light bulb for 17 seconds. It spends about 0.0003 kilowatt hours of energy on an average search query, translating to roughly 0.2 of 1 gram of carbon dioxide. Fun random fact. Searching the web 100 times is equivalent to drinking 1.5 tablespoons of orange juice. They say. Interesting. It was just when I heard Lance say that today, I think that my stomach dropped harder than my stomach has ever dropped before.
Well, I just wonder how you measure, right? Because if you think about generating the electricity for the network versus transferring if you're just talking about transferring the data, right? Like we're talking about energy right here. Like my voice right now, the microphone is essentially it's a factory, okay, and it turns my voice into the electrical, cord, the copper wire, right? And then that reconverts that data back out through your headphones, which then produces sound waves that you can hear me, right? But you have to transfer those things back and forth. But that's very efficient at that point, right? Just doing those data transfers, right? But to have my laptop being powered, right, or to have my computer being powered, right, what does that take? So you need electricity, and how are you generating the electricity? Well, so that's the problem. How do you want to measure the locality of the energy that you're using at what scale, and at what's the real cost? And you start really looking at it, and it's really, really hard to measure how much energy you're using, where you're using it, who's doing what with what. You can come up with different ways to think about it, and they can be more useful or less useful. But
well, that was pretty good. You're all so wonderful and informative. I really appreciate having the three of you on here. I was asked a question on the Doghouse Show's interview yesterday. What got me into economics and so forth? And I said, Twitch channels, Canadian Populace Left and SBTV_. You kind of all really made me just want to get into this stuff, and you've been good mentors and senseis to me. So I owe a lot of my development to the two brothers and Tom up there on the top.
No, don't be too generous, Oring, right? We're just a bunch of random people out here. Actually, we're just normal people with normal beliefs. It's just there's nothing special about anything you're hearing. This is all free, available information to anybody. I appreciate the compliment.
So I wanted to go. Yeah, please ask in more questions to us. They can be on mostly any topic. If we don't know anything about it, we're going to say, hey, we can't answer that one. But I wanted to go to you, Canadian Populace Left. Can you talk a little bit about the selling the weapons to Saudi Arabia? Why you haven't gotten paid yet? Why you're still giving them more? And can you go off on this one a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we decided to do a big weapons contract. First, it was under the conservative leadership at the time, in the past, Stephen Harper. Liberals agreed to it too, that we're going to sell these sort of light armored vehicle type style weapons to them, and we're not. Obviously, you said they were shown to be used in Yemen or whatever when you were saying the 3-minute debunk they're touring. Under the promise, we're not going to use them inappropriately, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, we're good for it. So we give them these weapons. The contract's going through. Eventually, the Liberals come to power, continue it along. And then, of course, there was the Khashoggi killing, the Washington Post reporter there. And everyone was like, yikes, that's a yikes. And for about like a week, the prime minister comes out, I think we need to reevaluate our relationship. And after like a week, we go right back to the same bullshit as if nothing happened. So continuing along, not getting paid, still giving them the weapons, and as they continue to push for a war in Yemen. And it's fascinating that we have this deal with them, considering there was that clip that the state TV released of them showing a 9/11 attack on the CN Tower in Toronto. Now, I don't get super triggered by that. I'm not super upset by that because if Saudi Arabia actually attacked a NATO ally, GG, like that's it. So they're not actually going to do that. But there's a lot of talk in our political rhetoric. We're supposed to be opposing ISIS, al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, and the other alphabet soup of jihadi terrorist organizations. And yet the most radical entity in the Middle East is Saudi Arabia that's spreading that ideology. And we seem to be allied with them. We love it. We absolutely love it. So we have a complete disconnect in our foreign policy when it's like, we hate ISIS, yet we're funding the people who fund ISIS. That's our best friend, because sometimes we're going to use ISIS to push into Syria, but we hate ISIS. And then nothing makes sense with our foreign policy. Nothing makes sense whatsoever over there. And a lot of even in Canada, oh my God, Iran. as a Canadian, I'm like, what the hell Iran do? What is Iran gonna take a battleship down the St. Lawrence and deploy into Montreal tomorrow? Hell no, of course not. Iran's not gonna do anything to Canada. Like a lot of this, it's all a lot of hype. Basically, need to get the hell out of those contracts. Need to really reevaluate our entire situation over there. Our foreign policy is a dumpster fire, an absolute dumpster fire. Not to mention, I would add, another dumpster fire we had was 2011 with Gaddafi when we decided to bomb Libya as well. That was another foreign policy disaster. It was a bit of a side, but I'm going to do it anyway. Decided to all major parties, the Conservative Party of Canada, the Liberal Party of Canada, and the NDP, the so-called like social democrat, the left, the so-called left, human rights, voted for the bombing. And we brought in open-air slave markets in Libya after that. Libya was one state smashed into 100 states, which then all these factions fought for power, ended up with 4 governments, 5 different leaders, somehow that's wild, and open-air slave markets. And that's all. That's it. And here we go. Libya is still a hellhole. We're not committing to rebuilding their country whatsoever. No commitment. Now we kind of brush it under the rug. And like when politicians are asked about it, they're always like, "Oh, I'm just gonna tiptoe, do my little tap dance out to the side here and just get off screen. I'm gonna dodge that question." So we have a deep problem in our political establishment in Canada when it comes to foreign policy, and it's fascinating. This conversation is not even allowed on the national stage. This kind of conversation, you can't even really. The only thing you can really do is be like, I'm really concerned about human rights and a lot of the escalations that are occurring in the region. We should probably evaluate the situation at hand. Like just like doesn't mean anything. Like I said nothing there. Like that's nothing. Like no new take, no 900 IQ realization whatsoever. So this is basically the condition of Canada's foreign policy, dealing with Saudi Arabia and selling these arms, and yeah. they're not going to pass, and if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. But definitely need to completely reevaluate our entire position in that region.
Yeah, I don't have anything really to add. I do have a different story to transition into a little bit. Did you see that the United Nations reported that the killing of General Soleimani was unlawful? This just came out today, I think. The United States air raid that killed Soleimani and others in his convoy was unlawful and an arbitrary killing that violated the United Nations Charter. The UN expert on extrajudicial killings, Agnes Callamard, concluded in the report. She said the United States provided no evidence that an imminent attack against American interests was being planned. Therefore, its self-defense justification did not apply. They also said that this was the first time that a nation ever claimed self-defense in order to undertake a killing as this. And obviously now the United States is pushing back against it. They're saying, oh, well, they're wrong, we're right, they're wrong, we're right, and so forth. But what do you all think about this UN report kind of coming out?
I think the idea of the UN, or this, let's put it this way, the idea of having a nice, peaceful, diplomatic organization where we can all resolve disputes and we can decrease all the goddamn suffering on this planet would be great. I'm not against such a thing. But the UN itself is merely a plaything of greater powers, the US being primary among them, but China does what it has to do in its most advantageous situation, and Russia does what it has to do, and so on and so forth, France, Britain, It really is just at best, it's providing smoke screens.
It's totally crazy right now. It's totally, you got France out there and General Haftar going on in Libya, France and Russia supporting somebody, and Russia is telling Libya to shut down the wells, right? And then Turkey's over there doing stuff, right? Who controls the oil, but he can't sell the oil, right? He can't make revenue from it. General Haftar over there. So it's like there's this whole political situation there. Now you have Venezuela. Venezuela has a bunch of foreign debt to China and Russia. They were borrowing from a private Russian oil company. It was called what is it called?
Was it Gazprom?
No, it was called. No, that's their state-owned one. It was called. Oh my god. No.
You looking for the treasury thing?
No, not at all.
Oh.
I'm looking for Russia is actually they're slowly taking over Venezuelan assets, and they had loaned them in rubles, and then they sold through a private company to the state Russian company uh, their state oil assets, sold to them by the
One
the
person said
Venezuelan state
ISBC.
oil company. No, I don't get the name.
Okay. I did see, to talk on what you're talking about with Libya. So Turkey took mercenaries from Syria, shipped them into Tripoli, is paying them $1,000 to $2,000 a month, paying for their hospital bills and their medical bills, because Erdogan thinks that they can increase their exports to Libya from 2.3 billion up to 10 billion, and they're really trying to develop, kind of their whole remake the Ottoman Empire and everything. And they're actually now sending technicians into Libya to see if they can develop floating power stations in order to prevent like some of the blackouts. But yeah, it's interesting that France is allied. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was Rosneft.
There you go.
And they had owned 50% of the Venezuelan country's oil assets, and then they sold them to a Russian state-owned company underneath, without really telling the Venezuelan government. But that's also because the Venezuelans have been borrowing in rubles, and then, like you're saying, Nate, the Treasury has been coming at Venezuelan oil exports too, which they had been kind of lenient on up until the end of 2019. They really started it, but now it's really picking up. They're coming after captains individually. They're trying to shut down their illegal shipping through Malta and stuff like that.
I'll be quick, Nate, and then you can go here. I saw today that Venezuela is potentially going to have to shut off, or not Venezuela, Iran is going to have to potentially shut off some of their oil wells. They're now at 85% storage capacity for what they can keep within the country, and since they're under United States sanctions and they're not allowed to sell their oil anywhere, they are fucked. I mean, they can't sell anywhere, they can't store anymore, and their currency has gone through, I think it's a 70% inflation just this year alone due to the crippling United States sanctions it's bad, CPL. It's really, really bad what's happening to Iran. So, I feel horrible for the Iranian people at the moment. Nate, it looked like you were going to jump in there at one point.
Oh, well, I'm saying, like, what's happening in Iran is just U.S. policy geared toward them. For wherever America is, it can... it's funny. It can't go after rich people. It can't go after Amazon or Apple or anyone else hiding their money. But you know what? When it comes down to shutting down, some Venezuelan oil traders or some Iranian oil
Good
producers,
point.
they can freeze that credit really fast. They have a way of just finding it, because there is an office in the Treasury that does that. It's the Office of Foreign Assets Control, right? Literally, that's the name of it. And it just shows you, like, it's. Like, what does the UN do? What does the UN say about that? Oh, well, they say it's wrong. Oh, what are they going to do? What was the Dave Chappelle skit? Remember? Well, sanction me with your army. The UN doesn't have an army. They don't have one. Okay, it's a worthless organization. It's at best a smokescreen, and people use the smokescreen to justify either interventions on behalf of human rights, or they use it to justify, well, we have to repress these people. You can use it any which way. Fuck them. That's what I say. Fuck them. Worthless. It's basically, it's just a smokescreen to once again make moralistic claims without actually giving a shit about the overlying economic systems or any. It's just just look at the whole, almost the entire continent of Africa, and go down to every single country. I was doing this the other night. Once again, guilty using Google Maps, Google Earth. Look at the development in Africa. Just go along the whole west coast. All right. Look at every single country. Look at Togo. Look at Benin. Look at Sierra Leone. Look at Nigeria. Look at every single country as you go around. They all have one port, okay? One port and a road that goes to wherever the extraction is, whether it's oil, minerals, whatever, timber, okay? Then that's the post-colonial legacy, and it's been that way for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. What are they doing? What is the UN doing? What is the aid leading to? Where's this? What was the foreign aid doing? What are the alliances securing? What is the U.S. hegemon doing? What is the point of this stability? For trade, right? That's what you hear. Oh, our interest, and every country's doing our interest. What is the point of the UN? I don't understand it. What is the point of it? I know on the piece of paper what it says it's for. I just want to know, what is it really for? It's just it's a smokescreen.
This is how you do it. What was Deutsche Bank doing in the late 1890s, right? They're investing in railroads in Turkey, right? What are we doing in South America at the same time period? Right? We're investing in railroads in South America. There's banks involved. There's corporations involved. Construction companies, contractors. What does it look like today? Oh, China's going around. They have global construction companies. They have global dredging companies and everything else. Oh, we have global banks and finance. Russia. Oh, the Deutsche Bank is still out there, right? All these players are still out there doing the same things they've always been doing, and yet we're all still surprised.
Even worse
Or
than
maybe
being
not all of us,
even
but-
worse than being surprised, we're the only ones that know about it. The people in the United States, they don't even know that it's going on, so they're not even surprised about it. They're just ignorant to the fact that it's actually happening.
Oh my god. Well, look, people in the United States, and they deserve a certain amount of scorn, and they also deserve a certain amount of pity. Okay, because they're totally like back against the wall kind of situation, but they don't ever know that. They're always in a situation of like, once again, I was coming from a manufacturing background, and they were constantly trying to unionize. Every year I was in there would be another vote trying to unionize, and every time it would get defeated 600 to 200. Okay, the no's had it. And every time you talk to people, every single person there complained about management. They hated management. They hated the company. They hated the fact that they didn't get a bonus. They hated working conditions suck. No air conditioning. Working in a factory 110 degrees suck. You can tell them all day long, yeah, the workers getting fucked. And when it comes time to do something, they don't do it. Why? Well, if we unionize, they're going to send the job overseas. Okay, so the American people, how do I say this? They're like the bull in the rodeo. Okay, you know how they get the bull to jump around and get all crazy? All right. That's what the American person, your average American person is. And depending on who you are, what's your individual, like, who God forbid you're a black person in the United States, right? Or somebody else who's even like, think about how all the intersections you hit it the right way. You're in a really fucking hell world. But this country, like, there is no, like, there's like a small, amount of people who are out here trying to articulate the problems. Maybe they have a YouTube channel. Maybe it's like, who is it? Like Noam Chomsky, has a little following, and Michael Parenti has a little following, and then Cornel West has a little following. How many people do you think that is? You think it's even 1% of the United States that knows who those people are, that follows these ideas, that tries to figure out what's really happening? Most people, what they want? They want a job. That's what they want, and they want healthcare. Not necessarily government, but they want healthcare. They want a job and they want healthcare, and then they want to go and buy shit. That is America. This place is a fucking shithole, right? Well, what can I tell you? They don't care. They don't care about what's going on in the world. The Americans do not care if brown people die somewhere. They don't care if a drone strike kills 100 Afghani children. Do not give a shit. They don't have the time of day for it. Who? Where? Whatever. When's the sports on? And look, they're dying to have their sports. They're dying. Their own government is fucking killing them with this whole COVID shit, forcing people back to work. Your own government is killing you. What do we sit here and do? Oh man, like, oh, what's happening? That's it. I mean, Christ. The landlords they're evicting people en masse in New York City. Where are the guns? Where are the pitchforks? Where is the violence? Where's where's the dignity? Where's the I'm a human, goddammit?
There were some people that took plastic pitchforks to the Hamptons. Not many, but did you see the story from a week ago? There were people that they went outside of Bloomberg's house and they were holding up the plastic pitchforks. I mean, it's not many, but Canadian Populous Left, do you want to try to follow that up at all, or take us into a different topic that is on your mind?
Man, that's a tough one to follow. I would just add in. It's incredible especially with COVID-19 and like the death count number. I mean, what's so fascinating to me is that, I remember growing up when just before the war in Iraq, you had 9/11. And I remember for about 10 years, like 10 whole years across the the American media circuit, or the landscape, it was like 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11. You get the point. And 4,000 people are dead or something. And here we're sitting with like over 100,000 people have died from COVID, at least minimum 120 now. I mean, it's
133,000 today.
Yeah,
not
and
today.
We don't have
133,000 total.
Gotcha. And there's not the same like vigilance about it. Seems to, it's not real. I'm not gonna wear a mask. Whatever. Body count go up. It's fascinating that that dynamic. It's just wild to me.
Yeah. Does anybody out there have like a good? I mean, somebody asked us a question of what do you think the source of the consumerism line of thinking is? Why do U.S. citizens not care about foreign debts? What's the solution to the problem? I don't think that any of us are gonna. I don't know if we have a solution to that one.
I can hop in.
Good. Okay, good.
I can't do the solution, but I can give a little analysis in the sense that people are, especially in the States, when I look at it, like people are just so stressed out, so worked out, so loaded up on debt, massive instability in employment, in life, and it's for a lot of people, I don't even have goddamn like 15 minutes to like take a break from like get up to go to bed, and it's so much pressure going on in people that I do in that regard like have that sympathy. And like when you got a news story, if you get at the bottom of something, you have to like cross-reference multiple sources and get into it. Like most people just going about their shit, they pull up Yahoo News. It's the default thing on their phone, and they're like, okay, Yahoo News, here we go. Or what? I'm not dunking on Yahoo News. I am, and I'm not. Every news source has its problems. But anyway, and on you go. And it's more of a condition of it's more of a systemic issue. I don't necessarily blame every person individually as much. Some people, yeah, but if someone's grinding hard because the situation that they're put in, whether with all kinds of different macro policies and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I do feel really bad for that, and that's all I can say about that in terms of like, why are people not paying more attention? But
yeah, and I think there's a lot of things. It's probably too much to even just mention in one podcast, but like, the big ones in my opinion are the institutionalization of social Darwinism through a scientific foundation, right? Like, it's not just a belief system. It's not the exact same as religion. It's like, oh, well, scientifically we're better or superior, right? That's like one of the implications. You have the systemic racism in America already because of the institutions of slavery and how it was, basically set up here, right? Then you also have the nascent, the patriotism, the kind of like America First type stuff. That shit is old. Make America Great Again is old. That's an old message. It's an ancient message. For like in American history, that's ancient. So there is this kind of maybe it's a little bit like what Adam Curtis was talking about. Maybe this instead of having propaganda departments, now we have PR and all that. Maybe it is like Century of the Self. Maybe this consumer is all tied up in the same kinds of structures. Trying to engineer wants and desires in people, trying to engineer the search for experience or whatever, or trying to engineer a kind of consumer society, or partially trying to. Maybe you can't ever be perfect, but why don't people care about I just read the other day in where was it? Burma. Okay, or actually, I guess it's Myanmar now. In the northern part of it, there was a huge mine that collapsed and 200 people died in it, fucking buried alive. Right? You don't hear about it in the news. No one cares. It doesn't matter what mineral they get in. It doesn't matter. All I know is I go to the store, I go online, I go to Amazon, and I order my electronic, and now I'm happy for the next 12 hours. And then literally the next day, like, man, there's no little brown package for me on the doorstep. What am I going to do now? What am I now? So I don't know. Look, it's America. All right, people with an international perspective probably have a better glimpse of it than I do. But this place is an actual shit show. It's done like... It's what's great at? It's great at exporting an image, and that's what we live on. We're living on these images. We're living through these images. It has nothing to do with concrete reality. Like I said before, it has nothing to do with facts. Political elections are not won with facts. You don't necessarily convince great numbers of people with facts. The idea that you're going to logic America into a bright new century of humanist understanding, I mean, that's crazy. It's not going to work. So there's probably I don't know what the solution is, but all I know is that for me, the time is running out. The niceties of the political system that we have now, the gridlock and all that, I don't know how long that's going to last. Until something serious actually does occur in the United States. Who knows?
Maybe when we go to Uruguay for the summer, we're going to get there and they're going to tell us to go back to our shithole country. When we get there.
Yeah. Pretty soon you're going to, I want to go to Uruguay where it's safe. I was gonna add, but what Nate was saying too, though, in terms of like how politics work, like this is one thing that Trump was really, really effective at. Obama too. They both had this dynamic. Trump, MAGA, make America great again. That could mean goddamn anything to anyone, right? Whatever greatness means to you, you can fill in the blanks. MAGA, and go about your day. You got it? That's the politics. MAGA, you MAGA, I'm on the MAGA. MAGA, 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 and you just MAGA back and forth to all the other people who are doing the MAGA thing, right? Obama, hope and change. Hope and change. Fill in the blank and throw in whatever the hell you want, right? It's not a 1,000-page policy document. I mean, maybe you do that in the back when you're actually governing, but when you're doing politics out there on, out there on the stage doing the speeches, hope and change. MAGA, you fill in the blanks. You fill in the blanks.
So somebody asked, like, what are the solutions? And I'll jump on this one quickly because I actually think there's a couple that would just really help out the United States. Medicare for all, Green New Deal, federal jobs guarantee. I think that you could just look into like 3 implementable things that can be written out via policy that would actually have like a market impact on lifting up the material conditions of people that live in the United States. Then maybe they'll begin to focus on the damage that they're doing to foreign countries. Because, it does, housing as a right as well. Okay, yeah, I'm with housing as a right as well. So I actually think that there are like... Go ahead.
Chemistry has a lot of solutions.
There you go. But yeah, I think that there are actually like, and publicly funded elections. There are definitely like some ways that like could be done. Now, I mean, how none of the stimulus packages of any developed. And also what I would say is, I mean, I think that we should do a debt jubilee in the United States, and for every $1 of debt that we cancel here, we should give $1 out to foreign aid to other nations to help them out. So it wouldn't be, we just fix our problems and we leave the rest of the world to shit the bed. Yeah, I didn't get the joke. Sorry.
Solution and chemistry.
Yeah.
Solution.
Oh,
Solution.
okay. I get. Yeah.
We
See,
mix 2 things together.
I'm blonde. Yeah, my fault there. Great Whoopdini asked us a question. How can we work on getting rid of intellectual property and the intellectual property laws that are holding back so much innovation in the United States and just doing so much damage, just overall? Does anybody have any kind of thoughts there?
I learned from my favorite here, from Ricardo, steal the intellectual property. Take it. Don't respect capital.
So the Chinese must have read Ricardo, right?
Yes.
I would
This
point
is
out.
how the Chinese are. They're good at doing capitalism, right? You steal from what you need. You take the Siemens train from Siemens Engineering. You take the American factory production model. You take what you need to do what you got to do, and then you build it into your own thing that works for you there. Right? And now you're exporting trains. You're exporting manufacturing. You're exporting all types of products. Right? You steal. I don't get it. I don't get why we're sitting here trying to create these rules like.
Right. Like that's intellectual property. Like, what about regular property? What were the rules that we follow? How do we, how did Americans end up with all this property over here? How do we get all that? You just fucking take it, kill, murder. What? That's what they did in the real world. That's what actually happens. And like you're saying, like Ricardo, what was he factoring in his economic theories? Well, capitalists will attempt to steal and compete with one another. They'll send in a spy to the factory, figure out what kind of fucking loom or whatever they're using, what kind of fucking mill they're using, and then they'll go try and copy it. And they did that. And that was to be factored into a capitalist system. So my only here's any solution that is like banking on a collective, massive like awakening. Forget it. Okay, and here's why. We have to understand that electoralism in the United States, from the local to the federal, is inversely proportional a sideshow. It's literally like your local election is probably more important, and you have more impact on that than your state, and then versus the federal, and so on. Okay, so. That's your secondary thing. Okay, what you actually have to do is figure out where you fit in to doing something positive, something in the community where you're actually building. That's all you can actually do. You cannot. Jamie Dimon is not waiting for you or a million of your friends to do something about it. He doesn't care. The international banks, they don't care. The military-industrial complex doesn't care. Politicians in Washington, D.C. don't really care. Major financial and oil and whatever interests do not care. They don't care what Americans do. They have the cops. They have the military. A lot of things in the way between you and them. So all you can do, realistically, here's the realistic solution. Figure out how you can fit into something going on in your neighborhood or community or wherever, the closest thing you can find, and begin from there. That could be a political group. It could be a political action group. It could be, I want speed bumps in the road. I want a new playground. You can get people together like that, and that's how you start. There is no other way. Okay, unless you're talking about some other kind of radical solution. You're talking about like some kind of guerrilla warfare. I don't really see it happening in America. But honestly, how to get around intellectual property? Fight back. I see all these lefty coders out here make a fucking site like what's it, Sci-Hub or LibGen, and figure out how do I get all these other digital products on there? How do we distribute these? Where can I source this? Where can I put it somewhere in the world where anyone with a computer connection can go find it?
It's the invisible hand. We have to eliminate the middleman one way or another.
Yeah, like look at Sci-Hub. Okay, if people don't know what that is, if you know what LibGen is, look it up. Okay, you can save billions of dollars. It's literally trying to make information free and open and available to people, as it should be. So emulate that for everything. Try to make open source everything. Make free things. Try to do some bad shit. Okay, in a video game, right? I don't want to get Tory News in trouble here.
Oh yeah, we were just playing Watch Dogs, and we were just going around hacking phones, that's all.
I would add quickly that like basically every country that builds this up and develops takes technologies from other people and doesn't like give them anything in return for them. They just take them, like every single one when they develop. So when it gets into all this like, oh no, my IP, da 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 da. I mean, it's people are jacking from people all the time. It's just how it always goes.
You're probably gonna have to delete this file, Tory.
Can somebody? I don't care. It's going on YouTube. Well, I mean, I was gonna put it on YouTube. Can somebody tell me what time it is? I'm just actually curious. I don't have anything near me that tells me
like
time.
8:35.
Oh, perfect.
8:35
awesome.
Eastern.
So yeah, I wanted to actually talk a little bit about what's going on with budgets in the states. And Nate, our city budget is 749 million short on 4.1 billion. So I kind of wanted to go into that. But before we move into like trying to, I guess, like predict how that's all going to fall out and what what privatization is going to be coming. Somebody asked, can we comment on the eviction protection expiring in many states on August 1st? I mean, I think that it's probably expired in some states already. And I just saw an article today on Bloomberg that 25% of renters in New York City have not paid rent since, was it March? I think that they haven't paid their rent. So, I mean, are they really going to start? Go ahead.
I was going to say, can I do a quick topic before we hop into this? I just thought this before I wanted to share this today because I got super mad reading this. So I live up in Alberta in Canada, and we currently have a conservative leader, and so we've got to help deal with COVID-19. Here's the genius plan we've got to help the economy. We're gonna bring back child labor. So now we're lowering the age that basically kids are allowed to work in the economy. So we're adding in 14 and 13-year-olds are now allowed to work into the economy. So they're going to be replacing janitors and other staff at hospitals. And this is our genius solution. We're just going to get 13 and 14-year-olds to come in, and it's a way to undermine unions too. Unions have fought for other work. The kids they're young. They don't know any better. You can really manipulate them, right? When I was 14, I was like, sure, boss, I'll do anything you say me do. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? You're young and you want to impress people, and an adult. I look up to adults, right? Super impressionable at that age. So this is the ghoul. Even conservatives before him didn't support this. This is too much even for them. All the conservatives come before this guy we got, Jason Kenney, is a ghoul. This dude is a ghoul. Absolute disgusting. So bringing back labor laws. We're going to return to the 19th century, and that'll be fantastic. So we'll have 13, 14-year-olds replacing other people who are like adults, probably trying to support families and whatnot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's our COVID stimulus plan.
But CPL, you wouldn't want to harm the opportunity that a 14-year-old would have to, a child to make money, would you? I mean, that's so anti-capitalist of you. Like, so you're getting in the way of the market.
The 8-year-olds need to be free. All right, who are you to tell these 8-year-olds to come in work that coal mine? This is terrible. This is terrible, Chad.
It's just a tragedy,
I heard
CPL hates children, hates the poor. You're not letting poor 8-year-olds, mop up the floor. Not cool, right?
Oh man,
I heard the teenagers. # free the teenagers.
Damn, I actually don't know what to say following up that. I'll move into something a little bit lighter to try to well, I'm not going to forget it, but to try to move. I heard you censor yourself from not saying the F word in there. I heard you kind of do like a little, you know, you did the.
I
F
do
and you
like
did
doing
the-
the self center. It's
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's I will do the full swear, but sometimes the self censor is more impactful than the swear itself.
Ever since I've
Kind
had
of
that,
kind of controversial, but
ever since I've had that conversation with you, I think about it all the time. But I curse more nowadays than I've ever cursed before. I think so. I've just,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because every day, you know, I read Wall Street Journal, Reuters, Al Jazeera, Bloomberg, basically like front to back religiously every single day. And it's hard when, you know, you're reading about a lot of things going on in the Middle East. I mean, I think that I just saw today that like 50% of the Syrian hospitals are not functioning at all anymore. And the amount of people that are food insecure in Yemen, I mean, it vastly outweighs the people that have food. So, you know, like I've lost my ability to keep that word out of my vocabulary.
Yeah, as the level, as the layer, as the amount of disgust that you're looking at rises, the ability to curse goes down. Like the threshold at which you'll curse begins to decrease, right? So like you see something absolutely disgusting, like evicting people during a pandemic, and you just gotta, you know, you can try to hold back, you know, or you can just curse. You can just lean right into it. You know, I suggest leaning in. It's a good way to get some things, you know, to express some emotion. Although it may sound crude to some people, but you know. What are you supposed to say?
I'm a switch hitter. I swing both.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably reasonable. I mean, what are you supposed to say when before COVID hit, there was already like 800,000 like homeless children in like the New York school system or something crazy.
True,
like that, right?
true, absolutely.
What do you? And they're already struggling with food and medical issues and housing issues. Like that was before the emergency. Before the emergency, there was already an emergency, right? But we don't call it that. In America, we look at homelessness as just, well, they shouldn't have done those decisions to become homeless. Everything is that. This is the danger. This is the double-edged side of living in a meritocracy. Those who are on the bottom, those who are suffering, deserve it. They should not have done that. Whatever they did to get into that situation. Oh, you didn't have health insurance? Well, you should have had a job that had health insurance, right? That's what the idiots in this country think. That a very large percentage of people in this country think. All right, that is the unsung ideology of America. And Bezos earned every cent. Whatever you calculate he makes per hour, you know, $1 million an hour or something. He earns every cent of that. He does work 4,000 times harder than his average employee.
But he's building a homeless shelter in the Amazon HQ. Isn't that going to make up for it, Nate?
and so this private charity bullshit is that's all it is. It's PR. It's conscious laundering. Okay, you got a guilty conscience. You want to look like you're doing something for the community. It's laundering. You need federal programs. Now, getting back to the states and the budget, states and cities are revenue constrained. They do
totally.
They are going to have a huge challenge for the next few years in raising the funds necessary to carry out their duties, whether it's police and fire or healthcare. And I understand like people do want the police budget cuts as they should be, and you know. The rest of that, it goes for everything though. Like it goes for education, it goes for school lunches, it goes for crossing guards, it goes for all kinds of things. So this is the perfect time, the perfect opportunity, and it's never been more apparent to have at least municipal bank, if not a state bank, and those banks can be hooked into the Federal Reserve System, and by that way we can circumvent all the idiot, all the idiot states out here with their idiot like legislatures who do these balanced budget amendments and all that shit. Fuck them. Go right to the financial source. They're printing. They're giving trillions of dollars out right now to bolster credit markets around the world. Okay, they're getting ready to buy shares of Apple. They're buying corporate ETFs already.
Look, our politicians,
Like,
they're dumb. Right? They don't know what's going on. They don't know what a CDS is or an LDO or a CLO or the debt swaps or whatever. They're in there. They vote on what they get told to vote for. They don't know that you can use the state and make a bank and then borrow and all that stuff. They don't know you can do that. No one ever told them that you can do that. They didn't read about it, you know? They don't read, but it doesn't matter. They're not
The internet is a series of tubes.
They're there to exist in a seat of power. That's it. They have no interest in like actually governing, you know?
Make a state bank. There's a solution. State bank.
Yeah. I'm not going to repeat what Nusha said. But what Nusha said to Professor Neurobot is accurate as to what was left outside of a certain individual's house. I think it was in Washington, D.C. So if anybody wants to look at Nusha's comment and get a little giggle there, definitely something funny that happened. I think it was about I don't know, maybe 10 days ago or something like that. I don't think that I'm going to get banned yet for what we've been talking about, but if I talk about that one too much, I mean, I've said many times I want to litigate against Bezos here on my channel, and that's why I'm, unaffiliated my contract. But I can't talk about what people are doing. There's the link for it, though.
That would be a positive change. Okay, if rich people and the politicians were afraid of us, were lived in fear, that would be positive. That'd be a positive change in America. But they don't. They live with impunity. They live with it's this Protestant work ethic that continues to be here to this day. They're blessed. The rich are so blessed. Fuck them. That's the right message. Whatever you gotta put in, you gotta find. Like they say, what's that saying? They were saying this in the 60s and 70s. These rich people, the people who are fucking up the planet, who are bombing people, they have names and addresses. Okay, whoever is making all this money from bombing Syrian people, or whoever's making money from military contracts up in Canada, whoever is making money building those fucking pipelines through indigenous people's lands, whether it's the North Dakota Access Pipeline or whatever, do a little digging. There's a little goal. Why don't we make a big list of all the people who are fucking everything up, and then publish this around the world for free for everyone to look at and then just wonder about? I'm not saying to do anything. I'm just saying it'll be interesting.
Unrelated things. The moderator in my channel actually has a podcast called Names and Addresses, and he takes like a deep dive onto a certain topic of who did like the worst crime, and just says, hey, this is public information, freedom of access. I'm just putting it out there, and so forth. I wanted to ask a question back on the state budget thing again. So I think that they can actually save the states for 2021. But on my channel, and what I tell people frequently as to why like maybe I get like the macro doom at times, is because while I think that maybe a couple politicians can be adept enough to fix it for next year, how are they going to fix it in 2022? What are they going to do in 2025? What are they going to do in 2032? Thankfully, I read Grifftopia by Matt Taibbi, and it taught me about Chicago, leasing off their parking meters. It taught me about Indiana and Pennsylvania wanting to lease off their interstate. The shock doctrine teaches me how New Orleans closed down their public schools after Katrina and so forth. So while I actually think the U.S. can save themselves in 2021 for the state budgets, what are they going to do the next year? And I'm not actually disagreeing that they can't get the money to them. I don't think that the politicians are going to be smart enough to know that they have to get the money to them. They're going to preach the whole austerity thing. The same thing is going to be happening in Italy. Same thing is going to happen in Spain. Same thing is going to happen in Greece. So, like, while, yeah, okay, cool, maybe we can survive 2021, what the fuck are they going to do in 2025 when now, instead of Philadelphia on a $749 million budget deficit on $4.1 billion, it's going to be a $2.2 billion budget deficit on $4.1 billion. Somebody in my community today told me that they actually got sent a survey from their city council about what programs they wanted cut, which, I mean, like, at least they fucking asked them which ones they wanted to keep and which ones they wanted to save. But I was also reading another article the other day that water costs in the United States have gone up 80% in the past decade, and now there's more and more people that are spending upwards of 12% of their budget or more just to get fucking water in their homes. I mean, North Philadelphia here, where I look, there's no public schools left. There's no services left here in North Philly. They're going to be shutting SEPTA down, or they're going to be cutting SEPTA hours back. So, like, sorry to be, like, you can hear that I raise my voice here a little bit, but, like, what are they thinking 5 years from now?
Well, I'll hop in and just say, like, the best term for this that I've heard is called grabatization. The whole thing is to grab as much as you fucking can and extract rents out of it. All right. The whole end game at the end of the day, eventually they'll get. They got the parking meters in Chicago. I mean, the ideal world for them will be you'll be able to go on some website. You could buy like a share of a road that has a toll booth on it.
Oh, they just started selling micro shares.
Every 30 centimeters, there's like some detector that detects your car going over it, and you just pay, and it's all like attached to some supply and demand algorithm on some network that's going up and down, and it's this is just the end game of it. I mean, the whole point in a lot of like developmentalist economics was the classicals. There was land, labor, and capital, and there was a fourth category, though, in infrastructure. And the whole purpose of infrastructure is not to make a profit. It's to lower cost to make it more competitive. So it gets it off the private sector's balance sheet. so it doesn't have to cost you anything. But here we are getting rid of they want the infrastructure. That's what they want. Once they've gutted everything, the last thing they'll get is the roads. At the end of the day, they'll have it all. And I mean, we see what's going on when they just threw like $10 trillion from the Fed into the economy, and yet they're telling them, oh, you need to be you can't live beyond your means, da 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 da. And yet they got $10 trillion in 24 hours, no big deal. How are we going to pay for it? Not even a question. Here's $10 trillion. Oh, you need to repave that little road, that little strip of road. Oh man, I don't know if we can do that one.
Well, and
It's ridiculous.
those parking
Ridiculous.
meters are owned by an Abu Dhabi sovereign wealth fund. It's not even like they stayed within the United States.
If
It's
you
through
want,
some-
you want to celebrate the 4th of July? Fuck you. Pay the Saudis. Fuck you. You pay the Saudis. This is America. Pay the Saudis Independence Day.
Nate,
That's how independent you are. Pay the Saudis.
I'll let you get in here,
Oh.
but did you see that they're now doing? You can buy slices of shares for
Yes,
different
yes.
stocks. Like they're.
How desperate? How desperate do you gotta be, right?
Shares by the slice, so you can buy 10%, or no, actually it's 5%. You can buy 5% of an Apple stock. You can buy 5% of a Tesla stock. You can buy them by the slice. You know what I mean? Like you can buy a share of a share. That's where they're getting to now, because they're I guess they're figuring out that like most Americans probably don't have more than a few $100s to invest. So you gotta get that last amount too. You know.
So when
I know where the end game. We gotta do a slice of a slice of a slice. Throw that into like a collateralized debt obligation. Slice that up and again into another.
speculate on it,
synthetic debt.
hedge against it.
There you go. And here we go. And here we go. And off we go. Right. This is
Sounds like a good idea. I mean, I think you know,
So-
you should make some calls to Citibank or somebody. No, wait a minute. I just want to say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's what's going to happen, okay? People, look, barring some absolute major, crazy, unpredictable catastrophe, Biden's going to win, okay? And the first thing he's going to do, besides whatever bullshit fanfare he's going to do, is going to say, well, we got to get this budget under control. The debt's going crazy. And Nancy Pelosi already has a track record of pay as you go and all that kind of shit. This is the Democrats are going to be preaching to us, the people who need desperate help, who have been, being shit on by this whole entire system for years, generations. She's gonna say, well, we just can't. We just don't have the money. We can't spend it. The debt's out of control. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell and his friends are gonna be salivating, cutting up every single public program they can possibly get their hands on in every state, city, and town. And the Democrats are gonna be the enablers, which is all they've really ever been. So everyone thinks. I can't wait to see it. I guarantee you, Joe Biden.
Well, you can wait to see it. You don't want to see it, but yeah, I got what you mean.
They're gonna go. They've always. The Democratic Party is an austerity party. They're gonna go right to it. The minute this crisis is deemed to be over, it's gonna be right back into austerity. Absolutely. With the current crop of people there now, it's absolutely hopeless. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You have to focus on the local. You have to focus on what you can do in your real life. Meet real people in the real world as soon as it's safe to do that, and you have to work right in front of you, man. Just turn off the fucking news. Actually, turn off Twitch. Don't watch my stream. Don't watch it. Turn off the news. Turn off. Go read some fucking books and meet some people and grill and have a good time.
Sure.
Just
I
go
agree.
connect with them and try to convince them. That is the best. If you really want a solution, that's the first step and then probably the only realistic step.
Don't
Do that.
don't turn off my stream. I usually stream from 8 a.m. Eastern until 11 a.m. Eastern, which is when probably some people are at work. Put that shit on your headphones while you're doing your job. Listen to my stream, and then in the evening, go do the other stuff. I'm just kind of fucking around here a little bit, but yeah, I mean, Nate, you're bringing up a good point. Like that's actually one thing that I thought. Like I got to a point on my channel, and I think like you may be getting there at times or whatever. Like we've said what we want to say. We've done the information sharing that we think that we're able to do. The big reason that I leaned into covering international news is because I feel it doesn't get enough coverage. So, thankfully, at least for me, I feel that I'm still trying to keep people informed and abreast of like what's happening internationally. But I couldn't imagine just covering domestic U.S. politics day in, day out. Because, I mean, it was the same story in 2000, in 2010, in 2020. So, you actually bring up a really good point of, log off the internet, get out there, join a local org, join a local campaign. Go ahead.
Keep in mind, that's if people are asking me for a solution. If you're not asking me that, and you're just sort of hanging out and watching the world burn, okay, yeah, that's fine too. Like I'm not trying to, like preach, stuff things down people's throats here. Like if you want to try to work towards a better world, then there's no way around the actual going out and doing it. If you just want to read for the 1 millionth time the latest black person to been murdered by a cop, or the latest 50 acres of rainforest to be chopped down, or the latest species that went extinct. I mean, you can read about that indefinitely. You can get really doomer, and you can be sad all the time.
Yeah,
Or
I'll
you
drop in a quick doomer one here for you. What was the article from? Oh, I think I have it up here. All right, from the Independent. Let's see. An alarm bell must not be ignored. Major report calls for huge pesticide reductions to halt collapse in vital insect populations. But let me read some of the numbers from this. It's fucking gross. The report says in the United Kingdom, over the last 48 years, 41% of wildlife species have suffered strong or moderate decreases in numbers. The country has lost 97% of its wildflower meadows since the 1930s and 87% of its wetlands. The report calls for ambitious new rules on pesticides that will put the UK ahead of the EU, which is considering the plans to have the pesticides by 2030. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you want to find out stuff like that in the mornings, come hang out with me. If you don't, close my stream and don't bring it up.
Well, for all the European listeners, you can't let the British beat you. Come on. You're gonna let the UK one up you? That'd be a point of pride. You gotta, you know, the Continentals. You gotta get together. You gotta come up with an even better environmental package. You know, it's that like the overwhelming. Actually, look, this is really the single cell organisms planet. This is the planet of the insects. This is the planet of the microbiology, right? That's, if you look at just the pure mass of organisms that exist. They're not multicellular, or they're not like elephants and tigers and humans. Okay, they're the single cell thing. They're the small, the little plankton, the little eukaryotes floating around out there, the bacteria, all that stuff. That's the foundation of this planet. And if we kill off the insect population, that's it. That's it for soil. It's it for agriculture. You just cut out like a major recycler of nutrients. What's going to break down all the dead bodies of all the dead animals and things? There's no more insects. It's just basically using pesticides to increase yield is just another way of suicide. It's just a slow motion suicide. Same thing with climate change. You know, CO2. You think you're winning. You think you're getting this great apples in the store. Oh my God, I made some money. No, we're actually just killing ourselves. That's really all that's happening, and we're just talking about it in different ways. You know.
I did do another shout out. Please, everybody, give a follow to SBTV_ the brothers. They do incredible work. Please give a shout or a follow to Canadian Populist Left too. They do incredible work also. They took time out of their nights to come onto my channel tonight. We're gonna hopefully be producing this show, I think, bi-monthly. Next time, maybe we'll have like one or two more topics. Tonight was just very casual, free-flowing. You know, we're kind of like chatting back and forth, kind of riffing off of one another. There were some great questions that came in from chat, but now you can kind of know, you know, maybe twice a month we're going to be doing this. Get your questions ready, bring them towards us. By twice a month. Yeah, twice a month we want to do them.
Twice a month, yep.
Yeah. So the thing that I did want to, you know, maybe like kind of finish up on here, and then we can all like take a breath and like unwind. I know you're going to do your stream. You're going to do your stream. But the rental eviction protection is going to be expiring. What can we do to help all of these people that are either going to be foreclosed on or are going to be evicted? It is going to be on Wednesdays. Yeah, it's going to be usually Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because one night of the week we're going to raid Canadian Populist Left in the book stream, and then the other night of the month we're going to raid SBTV_ when they do their show. But yeah, how can we as individuals now? I heard from James from Act.tv back in the 08 crisis, there were people that were banding together in front of homes and not allowing the sheriff to come and put the eviction notices up. That's a little bit difficult to do when your country has a raging fucking pandemic of 60,000 COVID-19 cases spreading. So, you know, if anybody is going out there to do any type of direct action, my biggest plea of all of you would just be try to maintain some type of social distancing and wear as many masks as you possibly can. You know, keep your face covered. Please be as safe as possible. But like, I guess, I mean, well, you can answer it with COVID-19 in the frame, or you can answer it out of the COVID-19 frame. But what can we really try to do to help all these people they're going to be losing their homes?
Yeah, well, see, when you live in a failed state, you have to resort to strategies and tactics and ideas that you might have to do in a failed state. Like, I mean, what if we all lived in a banana republic right now, and the president just got assassinated by the CIA, and now all of a sudden there's chaos, and like, what you have to come together, like you have to be like, you know, the Zapatistas or somebody. You actually have to come up with, you know, something that's going to fight back, something that's going to have resistance. The problem is, I mean, Americans don't really have a ton of current experience and knowledge with that. It's hard to do, like you said, because of the pandemic. And I don't know, like, what is the realistic thing? I mean, I'm going to point to somebody, hey, you should maybe hire a lawyer or something. No, they don't have people don't have the money for lawyers. They can't defend themselves in the eviction courts. I've seen all kinds of crazy Twitter threads where people are translating what gets said in court and then what the judge rules. Boom, 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 eviction, 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 over and over. It's just all this is an evidence of a failed state, and it's the non-intervention of a government that doesn't deserve our respect or trust or anything. We live in a hostile country, hostile to its own people, and hostile to everything else. It's just about making money. I mean, all I can really say is just do whatever you can. I mean, the Federal Reserve, look, the Treasury of the Federal Reserve or whoever could have stepped in, but they don't think it's their job to do that. There you go. That's it. They do think it's their job to step in when a bank is in trouble. They do think it's their job when entire credit markets are struggling, or corporate bonds are struggling, or Treasury, they will step in then. Anything else, though, I mean, what's the recourse? What is the recourse for an American? Vote? Maybe in the next 4 years, maybe after you're evicted and you're homeless, maybe you can go vote in the next election, right? Like, it's fucked.
Two super quick things to say, and then I want to let Canadian Populist Left go. One was also from the Matt Taibbi book, Griftopia, the extended edition, because I got like a new print version of it. They had a court system, I think it was in Jacksonville, where they were running through 24 foreclosures per hour, where they set up special judges to just rubber stamp
through. Yeah, totally.
Oh my, it's a disgusting chapter to read. Somebody did bring up something in so Jojo Rabbi said, it was Butch Enby said, rent strike and solidarity, they can't evict everyone. I don't have enough courage to do that. I rent from my roommate, who is my best friend of like a very long time, but I wanted to shout somebody out in particular. Straza Peretti, community member in a lot of different communities. They've actually been doing a rent and a debt strike since February. I think it's been since February, not paying debts, not paying rents, not paying like any of these things. And I think that we all need to, if you see Straza around at any point, make sure to give the DSA knee of, having that kind of bravery and doing something like that is, that is like true solidarity, and it's an actual like incredible thing that she's been doing. So next time you see Straza, tell her that she's a brave fucking person. But yeah, Canadian, I'm sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not like super experienced, nor do I have big advice to give in this, but all I can say is, if you're stuck in that situation, look at the other people around you who are in that same situation. Pick your objective and go for it and work together in whatever you're doing. Look at, it's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. Look at what you do have available, what your options are, and strength in numbers, obviously. So that's all I could really say. The federal government could help out. No, they could help out. They're not going to do anything. It's an absolute disaster. They're not going to do jack shit. Right? So this is just a situation where you got to rely on yourself, number one, and then two, the person next to you, and just start building that solidarity from there. That's all I can say.
If you actually had a government that cared about us, just to echo what CPL was saying, they would be giving you $1,500, $2,000 a month, every single person, so that you could always afford groceries, your medicine, things you need. Everything will be frozen. They'd either be suspending whatever taxes that those landlords might owe to them. They'd be working with state and local governments to make sure that everything got frozen. They would do that if they actually cared.
But we did the food aid box program that was supposed to get $1.3 billion worth of food and give it to people run by Ivanka Trump, but they've only put out like $665 million worth of the food.
Yeah. And then you have him. Okay, you have the Trump family and all that. Yeah, it's like an even bigger like disgrace. But I don't know. It's just like the power and the resources are there, is what I'm saying to people. The power and the resources of being able to do this, distribute payments instantly to everyone's bank account, to give money out to people to make sure that everyone can eat. We have all the resources.
It's all there. Yep.
The people who want to do it though aren't. So there's the problem. It's the people. The people are the problem, kind of thing. That's politicians are the problem, and they're big corporate donors and they're big wealthy backers and all the major interests. That's the problem. So until that changes, what can I'm not that rich. I can't just give someone else a house. I can't just pay their either their mortgage or their rent. So what can an individual really do? You can maybe do some protests, maybe show up, maybe try to prevent someone from moving in, shame the landlord or whatever. There might be different kinds of things you can look into, but yeah, just remember, if you're in America, you're in a failed state right now.
Can
So-
I don't have anything to add. Can I get a time check one more time from someone?
That's 9.
Okay.
2.
This is almost perfect then. So,
Yeah.
this is going to be coming up to the end of the first International Political Economy podcast. We'll see if the name sticks or not. But would you like to, tell people what you're going to be doing in the near future? Canadian Populace Left. Then I'm going to kick it over to SBTV_ to do it. Then I'm going to do a little closeout. I'll let you go get your stream fired up. And then I think that this was a pretty good first time for going through this. So go ahead, Canadian Populace Left. The floor is yours.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thanks for having me on touring. Great to be here with Nate and Mencius, of course. Yeah, I'm this week coming up. Well, tonight I'm going to be covering a new video. I found a new video from Steve Keen came out. So we're going to cover his book Debunking Economics. Check out a new video. So it's fresh Keen takes that just came out, and we're going to watch that and do a little bit of news. I thought what I'd do tonight is I might if we raid over to Nate, I'll start my stream a little bit later, and then if you want to raid over whenever you're done your stream, I'll pick up the rest, and probably go from there. But
Yeah, well, I'm not sure exactly what we'll be streaming tonight. I don't even know. I gotta actually plan it out. I gotta figure out what I'm doing. But in terms of like the future, there might be YouTube content to look forward to. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to put some things together. Our stream, we focused a lot on, and I can't stress this enough, everybody and everyone in chat, like, be as generalist as possible. Okay, look at the world from many different angles. That's what we try to do on a stream. You try to use some science. You try to look at a little bit of political economy. You try to take a little bit of the useful parts of economics or something, or the useful parts of philosophy. Be as general as possible. If you just silo yourself in the one way of looking at the world, like, you're gonna miss out on a lot, and then you're gonna have blind spots. So, hopefully, I'll be able to produce more content like that. And just want to thank CPL. Always great to talk to him, and also a big thanks to Touring News, all the shouting out and all the work he does. You guys should all be supporting Touring News directly if you can. Make sure you have a trickle of money going to him for per month. I'm not sure if what works best for you. I know you can't subscribe, but through PayPal,
Patreon, yeah.
Yeah, go through the Patreon. But yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to all my rants, everybody, and really, I look forward to more talks in the future.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So you can follow twitch.tv/Canadian Populace Left. You can follow twitch.tv/SBTV_. If you want, you can follow me, twitch.tv/Touring News. One thing that I have started doing is I'm trying to put up 4 videos per week of an international news rundown. I've been covering about like 50 stories per video, trying to really just give like an overall look at what's happening around the world. So you can find that on my YouTube channel at Touring News. And one thing that I would actually like if people did to me is I do want to start to do maybe like 1 or 2 videos per week, 5 to 10 minutes on a single topic, focusing a little bit longer on it and trying to do, like an analysis of, maybe the state budget deficits, maybe do an analysis on what's actually happening, in the Ladakh region with the China and India conflict or so forth. And I think that, our group overall is maybe going to be trying to do, I know you were talking about doing that Nauru video and debunking that part a little bit, Canadian Populace Left. But yeah, if people want to send me some DMs of what you'd like to see me cover in like a 5 to 10 minute video, I would really appreciate that. This is the end of the first International Political Economy podcast.